Next one, moving swiftly on, we're going to talk social media now. I'm going to welcome Brendan, and then Roisin is going to come up and they're going to talk about the social media sweet spot.
Thanks, Al. So, yeah, as Alan said, myself and Roisin are going to present a really brief case study where we use data insights to help us design a really intelligent paid social campaign. And we did this for iClothing, who you might be familiar with. They're an online-only women's retailer based in Dublin. The story is really interesting, actually. They started about 4 years ago. They're owned by a guy called Abbas Barry. That's Abbas Barry in his first office, working on his computer, surrounded by all the gear. And in only 4 years, they've come a really long way. And this is their warehouse now, so much kind of scarier looking. And it's getting really interesting. They're starting to go global. And we're really lucky to get involved with iClothing at the very early stages. And typically when you get involved with somebody who's just launching a business, you very much focus on new customer acquisition, and that's what we did. We ran a paid search campaign, and it was a really efficient paid search campaign that kind of hovered down the bottom of the action stage of the purchase funnel and fully focused on driving new customer acquisition. And the great thing about working on somebody's paid search campaign is you get really close to their data. You get close to their data in Google AdWords, but also we do a lot of our reporting in Google Analytics. So we get close to data outside Google AdWords as well. And when you get close to somebody's data, you get close to their customer, okay? And what I mean by that is, and a great example of this is something like the search terms report in Google AdWords. So the search terms report essentially allows us to see inside the mind of your customer. We see the words they're typing into Google before they click on your ad. And we got some interesting search terms for iClothing. But what it showed us was that the customer, or the iClothing customer, they know what they want. They're not afraid to use long-tail searches, right? So they know what they want and they're not afraid to search. So that's really interesting. We also got really close to some of the analytics data. And this is quite interesting as well. I don't know, some of you might be familiar with this. This is a path to purchase. So what this is showing us that in this particular path to purchase, it started with a social interaction and actually ends with a social interaction. There's some other really important touch points like display or organic. I think direct is in there and the email is in there as well. So that's really interesting. Lots of different paths to purchase and social playing a key role. Some of those paths to purchase get a little bit scarier looking. Look at this one. There's 80 touch points here for somebody to buy one dress. That's mad, isn't it? You have to work really hard to get somebody to buy a dress in fashion. But this is interesting because we do see that there's lots of different touch points. People are happy to engage in lots of different touch points, and that social plays an important role there. Then we got really nerdy within Google Analytics, and we set up some custom segments, and these are really interesting segments. So here I'm looking at new versus repeat customers. So I'm looking at new customers and I'm looking at repeat customers. Now these segments don't exist by default in Google Analytics. You actually have to build them out yourself. And when you built them out for iClothing, it was really revealing just how important the repeat customer was to the iClothing business. They're actually twice as valuable as new customers. And what I mean by that is they spend twice as much, they converted at a much higher rate, and overall revenue was much more attributed to the repeat customer. Now I'll just caveat this by saying that this is not the new versus returning report. Some of you might be familiar with the new versus returning report in Google Analytics. You can find it here. The new versus returning report is slightly misleading because it doesn't tell us anything about your customer. It just tells us an awful lot about your cookies because the cookie that looks at users and sessions lasts for 2 years. So I could be a returning visitor to your website, but I might never be a customer. Okay, so that's an important distinction to make, that we're actually looking at customers by creating these custom segments. So now, we know an awful lot about the iClothing customer, so we wanted to try and work out a way of how we could create a campaign that added value beyond the action stage of the funnel. We wanted to generate loyalty and advocacy. So firstly, we wanted to get their existing customers spending more, and second of all, we wanted to turn their existing customers into an asset. That sounds really cold and calculating, but that's what you get when you hire a search marketer to do your digital marketing. So armed with all that information, knowing how the iClothing customer searches, knowing that there's a lot of touch points to purchase and social plays a key role, we decided that the next thing we need to do in order to build out our campaign was look to some published research. And you've probably seen this. This is the Nielsen report, and it looks at what forms of advertising we trust the most. And they've actually compared 2013 to 2007. And you can see recommendations from people we know are the most trusted form of advertising. It actually increased in trust over the last number of years. So that's interesting to note. Just an honourable mention for all my search marketer friends. Search marketing has increased by 14% in terms of trust, although it's quite far down the list. Another interesting part of this study was they asked consumers what types of advertising resonate the most with them. And you can see number one is humour, and then second is real life situations. And that's when we felt we might be getting somewhere, okay? Because we know not an awful lot about the iClothing customer in terms of how they search. We know that social plays a key role within the touch points on the path to conversion. We now know that people trust recommendations from people that they know. and that real-life situations resonate with them. So the logical thing for us to do was to build out a paid social campaign that looked at all these different elements. So I'm going to invite Roisin up on stage, who's going to describe the campaign we built out and show you some of the results. Thanks very much.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Okay, so, thanks for that. So as Brendan had said, he wanted to get the existing iClothing customers to spend more money and to become marketing assets. And he wanted me to do this on social media, which I thought was going to be pretty tough. So what I decided to do is go back to what I knew already about the customers, and that were they're very loyal, they're brand advocates, and I saw a huge opportunity here for user-generated content on social. So this is where the eyewear campaign came in. So basically, we wanted the iClothing customers to take a picture of their outfit and share it on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram with the hashtag eyewear. So it's pretty simple. We had this landing page made. This is basically just telling the girls what they had to do and where they had to share, and then the prizes they could win. And this is also a great way to get them back to the iClothing website. So the KPI for this was engagement. So we wanted shares, likes, retweets, replies, all that good stuff really. But what was really important was the entry. So we really needed these photos. We needed these girls to send in their pictures, because without these pictures, the campaign just wouldn't have worked at all. So they did put in their photos, luckily enough, and they became brand advocates. They were basically just advertising for our clothing by sending in these photos. And not only were they sending in their photos, but they were also interacting with each other really, really well. So here's an example of a woman who actually posted her picture within a comment and said, "Love iClothing, great service, confident of buying online." And again, we see great comments, people saying they look great, stunning, great, all those great compliments. So it's becoming a really nice community, and people were talking amongst themselves as well as sending in their pictures. Again, here they're saying it's lovely and asking how much stuff was. So that was just really great addition to the campaign. Something that happened throughout the campaign that was really interesting was, as you'll see the picture here, yes, that was what we started off our imagery for Facebook with, but as you can see, it's purple, it's kind of more stylized, where the picture on the left is your kind of selfie style picture. And as you can see, the one on the left has 25% engagement and the one on the right is 2%. So it's a huge difference between those. The authentic images were performing much better than the stylized images we started off with. You can see the same here. The images here on the left, I mean, the girl has her bath in the background, she's her messy room, and this is compared to the blogger shot, which is really stylized, and as you can see, huge difference in click-through rate. And it's funny because the blogger shot or the model shot, they're the ones you pay for, but it's the ones, the real-life situations, as Brendan has spoken about, the girls with their toilets, they're the ones that were working best, and that wasn't something that I was necessarily expecting. So back to my first slide, it was the loyalty and advocacy of the customer that got me to this campaign. And this loyalty and advocacy is represented in the results we've seen so far. So this campaign is only 6 weeks old, so it's still very new, but the repeat customer is up 9%, they're viewing more pages and spending longer, so they're more loyal than ever. In terms of advocacy, as I said, the authentic images are 10 times more, creating 10 times more engagement. We've doubled the Twitter following, and we've already seen 16,000 engagements with this hashtag on Twitter and Facebook. So why did this campaign work? Well, we didn't invent this campaign out of nowhere. As Brendan had said, we had the insights and analytics, and that's what got us to create this user-generated campaign. We did lots of highly targeted ads on Facebook and Twitter, so we used custom audiences, and we knew that that audience would engage. And then ongoing optimization. So what did we learn from this campaign? And we learned that the authentic images were what worked. So there are the images we now use for ads, and yeah, that's eyewear. Thank you.